Last year I made this ironing board, and as you can see I am well overdue for a new one, and today's the day we are making one. Now I have many burnt spots where, as you can see, I constantly iron on, and this spot over here to the right is starting to become a significant problem when I iron light colored fabrics. Now it's starting to leave a stain on these lighter color fabrics, which meant I need to kind of just stop what I'm doing and make a new one. Now here I'm going to show you the back side, which is now flattened over with time, but the batting used to bulk over the edges, so when you are sliding and moving your ironing board across a table, it won't scratch it from the staples. But once again, I'm going to show you and tell you how to make an ironing board in whatever size that you need. So first up, you're going to need a 3/4 inch plywood. You could do a 1/2 inch plywood, but I wouldn't go less. I went with a 3/4 inch plywood because we already have this at the house in scrap pieces lying around. If you do not have a wood pile of scrap pieces lying around, you can of course go to Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. and grab a piece of plywood, and they will also trim it down for you there at the store. So you will not need any special woodworking tools either. They can do it all there at the store for you. And some of them do have a sign saying it will be like X amount per cut, which is usually $1 or less. It's cheap, but knock on wood, I've done this numerous of times and they have never once charged me. But go ahead and cut yourself or have the store cut you out a piece of wood in the size that you would like your ironing board at. Now, as I mentioned that I am using scrap pieces from our wood pile, I had a miscut on this side and it is pretty uneven. But what I did is I went ahead and took sandpaper and sanded it down nice and smoothly. And since I had to take out my sander, I went ahead and also sanded all the edges down and curved them just a little bit. Do you need to do this step? No, not really, because it will be wrapped in a few layers of batting. But if your wood piece is splintering, then do sand it down. Do not miss the sanding down step. Next, you will need a piece of fabric that is 10 to 12 inches or so larger than your plywood. And then you'll times that by 2 because you'll need 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back. So as an example, if your plywood is 20 inches wide, then you're going to get fabric that is 30 to 32 inches for the width. Now, of course, you will repeat that for both width and length. So here I am. I'm just going to rough cut a piece of fabric that I have on hand already and roughly cut it to the size that I need. And then I will just take it to my old ironing board and iron out all those wrinkles and creases. Then once it's ironed and flattened, I'm going to place it with the wrong side facing up, followed by your piece of plywood. Then starting on the longest side first, you will need a staple gun and a hammer if your staple gun can't really inset your staples. So go ahead and fold over the longest edge about 1.5 inches on top and then staple the center first. Now, I highly recommend that you start stapling in the middle and then work your way down to the sides. Also, if you don't have a staple gun, do not buy the staple gun that I have here. It is a pain in the butt. It always jams and it's just annoying at times. But as you can see, once I finally get it to work, I'm just going to staple the fabric down and then hammer those staples in place. That way they are sunken in. Next, you're going to turn it around and repeat the same thing on the other side. I'm going to trim off some excess fabric. And then don't forget to start in the middle, then work your way down the sides again. Now, as for the sides, if you have ever wrapped a present, treat this kind of the same way. Fold over the edges first, then pull the fabric over your plywood edge. So in this scenario, I will go ahead and do the sides first. That way my fabric will for sure cover the wood's edges. And then I'll just finish stapling whatever fabric is left over and excess that needs to be stapled down. But once you have finished this side, go ahead and repeat the same thing to the opposite side. Next, you're going to take 2 layers of your favorite batting. I am using Hobbs 80/20 blend in black because I also have some scraps that are large enough lying around. And plus, since my ironing board will be black now, it all kind of goes pretty perfect. So you're going to lay your double batting down first, then your ironing board on top. Now make sure the side that you stapled faces batting. Then on the longest side, I will trim off this edge a bit since it was uneven from my scrap pile. And then next, you're going to fold it over to the edge of the plywood. Then once more over, covering and wrapping around the edge, which will now be technically a 4-layer batting edge. Then of course, you're going to follow it by stapling it in the center. And then you're going to go ahead and work your way down the sides. Now you will have about an inch of batting hanging over that edge, but once you finish this side, go ahead and turn it around and do the opposite side the same way. And now it's time for the sides. So I'm going to take some scissors and remove some of that bulk from the corner edges when we've already double wrapped the batting on the sides. Then I will repeat the same thing and this time do the edges first to ensure the wood is covered with batting on the corners. Then I'll work my way in the center and then once again move out to the sides again. And then of course, once you finish this side, go ahead and repeat the same thing to the opposite side. Now lastly, we will be adding the last piece of fabric with the wrong side facing up. Now if you have directional fabric, please ensure that at this time that your prints are all going the same direction. Now luckily I can see the trees on the wrong side of fabric, so I can see that it's going to be all going the same direction. Then once again, starting on the longest edge, you want to make sure you have enough fabric that once you fold it in half, you can then fold it and wrap it around the edge, going over and covering your batting. That way the staple will then be stapled on the edge of your batting once you staple it down. Now as always, start in the center, then work your way to the edges. And if your staple gun isn't great like mine, you can then once again go back with your hammer and then hammer them all in flat. That way when you flip this over and you have it on your table, if you move your ironing board around, those staples will not scratch and scuff up your table. So that's why do go back, make sure you hammer those staples in nice and good. But once you have finished this side, go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. Once again, start in the center, then work your way to the edges. Then lastly, on the short sides, you will wrap the edges once again like a present, and I highly recommend doing the edges first. That way your batting will fully get covered with your fabric. Then of course start in the center next and then work your way outwards again. Then once you have both sides finished, go ahead and flip your ironing board over and give it a once over with your iron to ensure that everything is good and you're done. Now ever since I made my ironing board, I will never go back because mainly you can make it in whatever size that you like and it's pretty sturdy. Now, if you wanted your whole tabletop to be an ironing board, do it, because that is actually one of my dreams to have once we move. Need a small ironing board next to your sewing machine to iron those little pieces as you go. Do it, because I would actually love that as well. But I love this size because it does fit on my other table's edge, plus it's nice and sturdy. Now, if you could please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so then you can be notified for your next amazing quilt project.